Right, these are the answers for the Year 10 end of tier test section B that you've just done at the end of April. Starting with the first one, expanding the quadratic brackets. Hopefully everyone's happy that 2x times 3x gives you 6x squared. And then if you do 2x times plus 5, you get plus 10x. You do minus 3 times 3x, you get minus 9x. And minus 3 times plus 5 gives you minus 15. Putting those all together, obviously the 6x squared comes out, as does the minus 15. The key area where people make mistakes is that plus 10x minus 9x. If you start on 10x and subtract 9x, you can end up with plus x. I'm not sure why people end up with minus x, but perhaps that's something I'll discover tomorrow in the lessons. Apologies if you can't see the pen that well. Okay, moving on. Y4 times y to the minus 3, just add the powers. 4 add minus 3 is y to the 1, which you can just write as y. Y to the 4 divided by y to the 5, it's y to the 4 minus 5, which is y to the minus 1. I think drawing the diagram was pretty straightforward. You carry on till 1 o'clock, excuse me for drawing this fairly sloppily. And then it should land exactly on 145. If you missed it a bit, you lose the mark. When it says calculate the average speed of the taxi, it was quite sneaky in just asking for the taxi. A couple of people got called out by that. And then in terms of what happens next, you've got to do speed equals distance over time. Now, bear in mind that your answer is in kilometers per hour. So if you've got distance over time, that's how you end up with a measure of distance per time. So speed is a distance per time, like meters per second, miles per hour, kilometers per minute. All those are measures of speed. And because the distance needs to be in kilometers and the time needs to be in hours, the distance for the taxi to travel is obviously 12. The time is 45 minutes, which you need to convert into hours, and you need to convert it into hours decimally. Decimals or fractions will do. 45 minutes, if you're doing this a long way around, is 45/60ths of an hour, which cancels down to 3/4 of an hour. So it's 12 miles in 3/4 of an hour, and if you do 12 divided by 3/4, you get 16 kilometers per hour. So that's your final answer. Everyone struggled with this question. The area of the rectangle is equal to the area of the triangle. That's the formula that you need to create. So the area of the rectangle is obviously just x plus 5 times x minus 2, which comes out as x squared plus 3x minus 10. And that's going to be equal to the area of the triangle, which is a half times the base times the height, or a half of x squared plus 8x. The easiest thing I think to do is to multiply out that half, so this becomes 2x squared plus 6x minus 20 equals x squared plus 8x. And then you subtract over, so you get x squared, 6x minus 8x is minus 2x, minus 20 equals 0, and bang, done. So these algebraic reasoning questions are quite tricky, but really it's about translating the information that you've been given into a formula. And so if it says the area of the rectangle, we know what the area of the rectangle is, it's that times that, is equal to, there's your equals, the area of the triangle, half times base times height. And from that all simplifies to the thing that you're supposed to make it, the thing that you get for the show that. On we go, making x the subject of the formula. Another tricky one, this. Reason being that x appears twice. Whenever x appears twice, you've got a standard tactic. There's a fraction in it, so you want to multiply that up. And perhaps counterintuitively, you want to multiply this out. So you get xy minus 3y equals 3x plus 4. Here's the really important stage. You put all the terms with x in them on one side, so we minus 3x across. I'll do this in 2 stages. And then you want to get all the terms that don't have x in them onto the other, so we're going to add 3y over. I say add 3y over, I'm adding 3y to both sides. Now that you've got all the terms with x in them on the same side, the way to turn two x's into 1 is to factorise. You take the x out, you've got x times y minus 3, and your last stage is to divide by y minus 3, and you get x equals 4 plus 3y over y minus 3. Okay, I was a bit harsh with this one because it was 3 marks and a lot of people just wrote the answer. I think if there are usually more than 1 mark, but certainly more than 2 marks, you've got to have some working to get all the answers to the question. When you're solving an equation, you get x equals or n equals. When you're solving an inequality, it's the same thing. You want to reduce it to n. So the easiest way to get from 3n to n is to divide everything by 3, which means that you get this. That is your working. I know it doesn't seem like much, but if you want with an equation, it goes to x equals. With an inequality, it goes to x is less than or more than, and that's what you need to do. And then obviously if x is every number between 1 and 6, including 1 but not including 6, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 with commas in between. Those people who wrote 3n is 3, 6, 9, etc. Yeah, it's got to come down to n. Equation of this line, it's got a gradient where you can look at the rise, which is 3, the run, which is 6, and you say rise over run, and you get 3 over 6, so that cancels down to a half. So you know the gradient is a half, and the intercept is 0, so y equals mx plus c. If the gradient m is a half and the intercept c is 0, that's y equals a half x plus 0, but you don't need to say plus 0 because plus 0 doesn't mean anything, so it's just y equals a half x. For the 3 inequalities, you're now looking at these 3 lines, this one, and this one. And you need to say it's below the diagonal line, to the left of the vertical line, and above the horizontal line. The horizontal line is y equals 0. Are we above y equals 0 or are we below? We're clearly above it, so it's greater than or equal to. Remember, the black lines want equality. This is a solid black line as opposed to a dashed line, so it's just greater than or equal to. The vertical line is x equals 6. We want x to be less than that, so it's x is less than or equal to 6. And then for the last one, the diagonal line, y is equal to a half x, but we want below the line, so y is less than or equal to a half x. Those are your 3 inequalities. This was a tough question. I'm surprised they've not had a question like this actually before in a normal GCSE, but they easily could. So most people seem to have the right idea. You want to get the total frequency for each group, which you do by multiplying the frequency by the midpoint. So the total for this one is 3 times 10. The total of this one is f times 20. The total of this one is 7 times 30, 6 times 40, and 4 times 50. You add those up to get the total, so 200 plus 240 plus 210 plus 20f plus 30, and that gives you 680 plus 20f. If you want to work out the mean, of course, you divide the total by the total frequency, which is 3 plus 7 plus 6 plus 4, which is 20 plus f. So that's what the mean is equal to, and that's equal to 30. So that's an equation now. To solve an equation, this is the equation, by the way. So the total divided by the total number of values equals 30. So you do 680 plus 20f, multiply both sides by 20 plus f, equals 30 times 20 plus f. So we get 600 plus 30f equals 680 plus 20f. Lose 600 from both sides, 80 plus 20f equals 30f, lose 20f from both sides, 80 equals 10f, and f equals 8. Some people do it by trial and error. I was a bit harsh, I only gave you 2. It does say you must show your working, and usually that means that they want an algebraic reasoned answer and not just one where you've done trial and error, unfortunately. People got caught out by this one. Similar triangles, yes, the scale factor is 6 between the small triangle and the large triangle. I always think when you've got embedded triangles, so you've got a triangle inside a large triangle, it's better if you draw them out separately. Clearly that's 1.5 and that's 9, so if that's 2 and that's 12, but the 12 is for the whole thing. That's A, B, C, that's A, D, E. So AD is 12 because AD is 6 times 2. But if the whole length is 12 and this bit's 2, then BD is going to be 12 minus 2, and the answer is 10. Watch out for those. The scale factor is from the small triangle nested in here to the large triangle, and sometimes if you're looking at a bit of it, clearly BD is not part of a triangle. Hopefully that's obvious now, but yeah, tough question. Moving on, nearly there at the end now. X angle at the centre is double angle at the circumference. I think most people knew that was 52 times 2. A lot of people recognise that this was a cyclic quadrilateral. They didn't write the word cyclic. You've got to write that it's a cyclic quadrilateral. You don't even need to say that opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add up to 180 degrees. The reason is cyclic quadrilateral. But I can understand why you'd want to write opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add up to 180 degrees. Probably sensible in the exam to give the full answer. Anyway, a lot of people did 180 minus the wrong angle, so they did 180 minus this one, but you'll notice that for a cyclic quadrilateral you're talking about 4 points on the circumference. That's this one, this one, this one, and this one. If you did 180 minus the angle here, 104, that's not on the circumference, so it's not actually part of a cyclic quadrilateral. Y is opposite 52, so it should be 180 minus 52, which is 128. A few people worked out this angle here, so did 360 minus 104 is 256, and then said that Y was half of that because Y is half the angle in the centre. I think I may have actually marked people wrongly a couple of times for saying angle at the circumference is, or angle at the centre is twice the angle at the circumference, when they had done working out half as 256. Technically they should have got the answer right for that, so apologies. This one, tangents to a circle. We know that these tangents are the same length until you create isosceles triangles. You also know that this is the centre, so this is 90 degrees and that's 90 degrees. So actually this is pretty straightforward. You've got a quadrilateral, all the angles up to 360, so if you do 360 minus 90 minus 90 minus 65, you end up with 115. Last page. Pleased that most people got these right. Expand the brackets, 9x minus 9 equals 5x minus 10. Add 10, or well, 9x plus 1 equals 5x. Minus 5x, I've done this slightly slowly, there's a better way of doing this, sorry. So 4x equals minus 1, so x equals minus a quarter. Pretty straightforward. Some people got caught out with the fractions. I think most people recognise that you want to, well, you don't have to, but putting it over a common denominator was one way of dealing with it. So this would be 2x plus 2 over 4, double the top and bottom to make that 4. You can keep this at 4. Some people went for 8. The key thing is when you go from here to the next stage to do it correctly, you can either combine these into a single fraction, which perhaps I'll do now that we've got the same denominator. So you get 2x plus 2 plus x, which is 3x, and then the plus 2 minus 3 plus the minus 3 gives you 3x minus 3 over 4 equals 2. And then, of course, when you multiply through by 4, whether you do it at this stage or this stage, you lose the denominator, and this side becomes 8. So then we've got 3x minus 3. Have I messed this up? I have a feeling I have. 1 second. Yeah, sorry, that's a minus 1, isn't it? There you go. Apologies. So then you add the 1 over 3x is 9x is 3. Last questions, and one that caught everyone out. A intersection B, everyone knows that. B complement is everything outside the circle of B. I was pleased that, again, most people got this right. Everything outside A union B, well, everything, A union B is everything in either A or B or both, so outside is just the bit outside. This is the tricky one. We talked about De Moivre's theorem, which is the one which says that if you do the complement of an expression, you change everything. So I think it was De Moivre. Anyway, you don't need to know the name of it. A complement change. If you complement A complement, it goes to A. The opposite of union is intersection. The opposite of B is B complement. So we're looking for everything which is in A and also not in B. Because remember, for intersection, it has to comply with both rules. So we're looking at things which are in the circle of A and are also not in the circle of B. So they must be inside the circle of A and they must be outside the circle of B. Hopefully you realise that means the stuff that is exclusively A. And I've just realised I have marked quite a few people wrong who got this right. So hopefully I'll correct that now. Anyway, tough paper, lots of questions to catch you out. And hopefully in the resit people will improve on their marks.